5 countries that may choose China over the United States. Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia has long been a Gulf ally of the United States. However, the monarchy is a brutal dictatorship. Saudi Arabia has always depended on American security. On the other hand, the West has been very critical of it. Mohammed bin Salman, the Crown Prince, is the de facto ruler of Saudi Arabia. Journalist Jamal Khashoggi was brutally assassinated and MBS was found to be responsible. Saudi Arabia was referred to as a pariah by Vice President Biden. MBS hasn't forgotten the insult. He is now thinking about transferring his foreign trade to the yuan. China's expanding presence in the Middle East has recently concerned Washington. Saudi Arabia recently announced a $3.6 billion deal to purchase 10% of China's Rongsheng Petrochemical, which would allow it to supply the firm with 480,000 barrels of crude oil per day, further solidifying its energy connections with China. As the US's rivalry with China and Russia deepens in a more polarized globe, analysts claim that Saudi Arabia and other Middle Eastern countries are making the decision to diversify their international alliances. Mexico. Mexico and its neighbor to the north have traditionally maintained strong connections. Its trade strategies heavily depend on NAFTA. Its top trading partner is the United States. But China is guaranteed the second spot, and it appears that the balance is moving in its favor. In 2000, 1% of Mexico's overall commerce was with China. In contrast, in 2019 it was 9.8%. Trade with the United States declined dramatically from 81% to 63% during the same time period. In 2003, a strategic partnership was created between Mexico and China. And the epidemic made this ally stronger. Beijing at that moment became Mexico's strongest ally. It reportedly made large-scale supplies of vaccinations and personal safety gear. Currently, Mexico is thinking about adopting Chinese 5G standards. However, Washington is promoting the American standard. Even the foreign ministers of China and Mexico met last year, and their message was unmistakably directed at Washington. China and Mexico are both separate nations with significant rising economies. They always respect and treat one another equally. The two countries' relationship is not directed against anyone else. Brazil. Brazil's situation is highly dependent on its president. Currently, it is Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. In January, he defeated Jair Bolsonaro to win a third term. Lula visited Beijing for 3 days in April. He came back with a message that was more political than commercial: we want to increase the strategic alliance between our nations, increase trade flows, and along with China, balance world geopolitics. Brazil is the largest economy in South America. Lula is currently attempting to draw the continent closer to China. Every night I ask myself why all countries have to base their trade on the dollar. Brazil's exports to China hit $89 billion in 2022, and the yearly trade between the two countries is already $150 billion, 140 billion euros. According to analysts, Beijing is investing in a variety of Brazilian industries as it seeks to take advantage of Brazil's large market and wealth of resources. South Korea. Seoul is an ally of the United States that is sandwiched between two superpowers. Similar to Riyadh, it has historically relied on American military assistance. Whereas Beijing is an ally of Pyongyang, its archenemy. However, although commerce occurs right now, conflict is an impending possibility. Asking if South Korea would select either China or the United States is like asking a child whether you prefer your dad or your mum, remarked Moon Hee-sang, the Speaker of the South Korean legislature, in April. Economic cannot be sacrificed for security, and security cannot be sacrificed for economic. But what if mom and dad later decide to divorce? As a result, for years, Seoul has been doing the balancing act. China is the country's most important trading partner. Also, there's no assurance it'll pick America if forced to make a decision, according to reports. France. France frequently aspires to be the world's third most powerful country. Back in 1964, Charles de Gaulle declared his support for China. And at the moment, it is Emmanuel Macron who is reiterating Beijing's talking points. On the other side, France has traditionally been pro-American. In World War II, American soldiers liberated it. It is one of NATO's original members. But it has always aimed to challenge American hegemony. Macron is also allegedly claiming that France is not responsible for the tensions around Taiwan. It would be a trap for Europe, he said, if we become involved in other people's difficulties. Additionally, he stated that he was working to preserve EU unity with regard to China. Macron even made a state visit to Beijing in April. The European Union and France hold the same view on Taiwan. Specifically, to acknowledge a single China, maintain the status quo, and look for a peaceful settlement. It is untrue that the EU has radically different views on Taiwan. However, it is a clear warning to the United States though.